Welcome to the Health Round of the Week, episode 31. Hi, my name is Alejandro Flores, certified fitness and nutrition coach with Altus Fitness. Today's episode is called Trust Your Gut. Trust your gut. So if you're anything like me, you may have gone through the following situation when you were younger. So I remember every now and then I would just go out. I would go out a lot, actually, not every now and then, but every now and then I would go out or just get ready to go out, and I would find my mom on my way out of the house, and she would go and say, well, you know, son, I'd rather you didn't go out tonight. And then when you ask her why, she would go like, I don't know what it is. I just have this gut feeling. All right. And you're like, oh, geez, so as simple as that, and there was no actual fact substantiated answer or anything like that. It was just your mom's gut feeling. More often than not, I would be upset, of course, and I would say, okay, do my best to maybe just have my friends come over, but if things didn't work out that way, I would basically stay home, just based on that, right? So I'm going to talk about today about the microbiome or microbiota. All right. So the microbiome, what is the microbiome? The microbiome is the sum of all the bugs, like the bacteria, viruses, protozoas, and other organisms that actually live in and on your body. That's right. In your gut bacteria, but on your body. Absolutely. So the first point I wanted to talk about is they are literally everywhere. So we are vessels that carry bacteria. All right. So much so that there's different numbers out there, but like the one that seems to be a little more consistent there is 3-to-1 ratio. That 3-to-1 ratio means that for every one cell in your body, there is 3 microbes that populate your body. So that means that if we are made up of roughly 40 trillion cells, and we are inhabited by around 120 trillion bacteria. Yeah, that's mind-blowing, but that basically is the way it is. As I said, I've heard as high as 10-to-1. Okay, so, but, it depends. Every person is a little different, but people say, so you can be 20 trillion cells and 200 trillion. So that's why the ratios can grow. They can, they can spread out so much. Let's say it's 3-to-1. So 3-to-1, that means that you are so I am 170 pounds, 165 pounds, the way you see me right now, but there is, the interesting thing is that I weigh, all my cells combined will weigh about 165 pounds. Basically, that's just the way it is, right? So all the bacteria combined, though, interestingly, they will weigh about as much as my brain, your brain. They will weigh about 2 to 3 kilograms, maybe. So they account for roughly 1 to 2% of the person's body weight. Now, the interesting thing is that they affect everything you do. So it has been shown that your bacteria, like your microbiome in your body, will affect anything and everything from your eyesight to your hearing to your carbohydrate metabolism. This is the part that actually got me interested in, because nutrition, we think nutrition and we think of the GI tract and the digestive system and all stuff, but we fail sometimes to account for all the work that is done within our digestive system by the microbes that populate our body. And they are so important, going back to the whole concept. So they affect everything. There are, once again, stats, some experts say, different numbers, but supposedly things like serotonin, which is one of the like hormones, neurotransmitters that make us feel happy. All right, so is up to 95% produced in our gut. And yes, that's part of the reason why the enteric system is called the second brain, meaning there is actually a pretty well established relation between your gut and your brain. So they do down or up regulate each other, which is absolutely fascinating. So meaning when the fact that, for example, you eat certain foods and those people or you, let's say you actually feel you're a person that typically is like way too anxious or tend to be depressed, or you are too stressed out, or, well, guess what? That saying that goes, you are what you eat, is 100% accurate, because remember that you are feeding a community of beings that actually populates your body. And that community of beings, much like yourself, if it's not happy, if it's not well nourished, if it's not well taken care of, will not thrive. And if it doesn't thrive, well, think about this only. Like there's like dopamine, serotonin, like some other epinephrine as well, like adrenaline is one of the ones that will be affected directly by balances in your microbiome, meaning in your bacteria. So if you eat certain foods and you will feel a certain way, well, what do you think about these beings that populate your body, and they actually outnumber you 3-1? Wow, it's mind-blowing. So they actually will affect your happiness. So you don't feed them properly, they will affect your happiness, your mental focus. They, and I say they because, as I said before, and I'm just going to refer to my notes every now and then here. So certain things, certain neurotransmitters, hormones, and even certain amino acid oxidation, like, serotonin, for example. So just as I said, the happiness, tyrosine, which is an amino acid that the amino acid metabolism and oxidation is going to be regulated by them. All right. So dopamine, tryptophan is another one, right? So another amino acid. So dopamine, it's a neurotransmitter, epinephrine. All right. So and in essence, like every neurotransmitter, every hormone that you produce is either up regulated or down regulated, meaning it's boosted or it's watered down by that communication between your gut and your brain. So if you don't feed them properly, what happens is that you will actually feel it. You will feel it. They will act a certain way, much the same way that you act when you're, for example, you're angry, you're upset, you're sad, you're depressed, you're happy, all that stuff. They will, in turn, that will shift the balance. So what you eat will shift the balance between I heard it's something like 385 million different species potentially that you can have in your body. And these beings actually, if you don't have a healthy community, you will not be a healthy person. I'm going to talk about some things a little further down the road that are actually mind-blowing. All right. So in regards to that. So the other thing is the same way that they communicate with your brain. I mean, they will, like, your gut will communicate with your brain, and there's a feedback loop there. It's not a one-way communication. It doesn't come from your brain. And we used to think up until like maybe 10 or 15 years ago that our brain was like the CPU and the command center, and that basically whatever came from your brain, like your body would execute, and that was it. That was that. Right now we know that there's a big portion, that gut feeling that we used to think it was just an excuse for our moms to keep us in the house or to keep us from like going partying or whatever it is. Well, that gut feeling is an actual thing, and it actually comes from your gut. All right. So there's a two-way communication with the brain, and the brain will sometimes regulate to a certain extent your community, your gut bacteria, but the opposite is also true. So it will actually flood your body with some of those neurotransmitters and hormones that your body will pick up on and will react accordingly. So it is really, really fascinating. Now, I'm going to tell you another thing that is mind-blowing about the microbiome. So the microbiome or microbiota, or your gut, your gut bacteria, or your whole body bacteria in this case, not only are they everywhere in your body, inside and out, including your ears, your eyes, all that stuff, your nose, your mouth, huge, all right? They also can do almost anything for you, in the sense that I told you that how they affect everything. They will affect your mood. They will actually affect your weight gain, muscle gains, muscle loss. Believe it or not, just muscle preservation at least, but weight gain, weight loss. It's going to be to a certain degree regulated, because that feedback that you're getting will alter, for example, like leptin and ghrelin, which are like some hunger hormones. It will, and satiety hormones, it will be, or they will be actually affected directly by the health and the signaling of this bacteria within your gut. All right, so it's really fascinating. Now, the cool thing is, or the cooler thing is, gene expression. And this is a completely different topic that we can commit like another whole video to. But gene expression, once again, the same way that we used to think that maybe 20, 30 years ago, we're like, okay, like, I know that everyone in my family has had a heart attack. Everyone in my family is, like 3 out of 4 people will have cancer. In my family, and I've said this in other videos, in my family, the number of people that have had colon cancer is overwhelming. Overwhelming means on my maternal grandfathers, so my grandfather on my mom's side, like my mom's dad, all of his siblings had colon cancer. 5 of them. 5 of them. Now, what gene expression means is that, and this is good news for you if you decide to act on it, you are not doomed, okay? You are not doomed, even if in cases like these, like the gene, you do have certain traits in your genes that will trigger for you to have potentially these conditions, or be more prompt or more susceptible to these conditions. That doesn't mean that you are going to have them though, because the gene expression is, or are understood as factors that will like switch on and off these genetic, traits, so for you to either have cancer or not have cancer, for example. Right now, your microbiome is actually responsible to a degree for that as well. So that's another. So eat healthy foods, keep healthy bacteria. Eat unhealthy foods, keep unhealthy bacteria. And what I mean by keep unhealthy bacteria is not that they're going to necessarily go away. It's that you're going to be feeding the bacteria. The one that is going to be thriving are the ones that are actually not necessarily as efficient as producing serotonin and things like that, but some other more harmful bacteria within your gut. And that is going to, in turn, actually, which is even more fascinating, it's going to predispose your liking or your appeal to certain foods. And guess what those foods are? The same foods that you're eating, because the more, when you eat them, you have a certain bacteria take over and grow in a disproportionate manner. And when that happens, that bacteria is going to go like, okay, check. We need to get more of this so we can stay healthy. So in turn, it's going to signal your brain for you to crave those foods. So it's a very, very complex system that happens. Now that will affect also your gene expression. So you eat properly, they stay healthy, you stay healthy. It is as simple as that. Not saying that it is simple. The whole concept and the whole topic about the microbiome is still in study, but this is how much we know and how much most experts out there agree on by now. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you now what needs to happen. So when you're born completely sterile. So from the womb, you actually come from a sterile environment. Now, and this is very tricky. This is something that only recently we know the relationship between, for example, vaginal birth and C-section. When you're born, the first inoculating moment, that you go through, like the first time that you actually get exposed to this bacteria, the good bacteria and the bad one, of course, but mostly the good bacteria, is when you go out through the vaginal, canal. So vaginal birth, basically, right? Now, when babies are born through C-section, they actually do not get exposed to the vaginal bacteria and the bacteria in the skin and the sweat that the mom has, and that you would naturally be exposed to during birth. Okay, so that's a big thing. And I was just watching some research and reading some research on how that will determine your predisposition to having allergies, asthma, and having some conditions and your neurological development as you start growing up, like within your infancy and things like that. So that's number one. Number two, another great thing is the breast milk, and you having the contact, your saliva with your mom's, skin. It's actually nurturing not only yourself, it's being nutritious to you, but it's also nurturing the bacteria. So that's so when you see kids that are, for one, they're born through C-section, and you track their health progress and even their neurological development and all that stuff. You see the kids are born through C-section, and the ones that are vaginal birth, the ones that have been breastfed, and the ones that have not been breastfed, you do see like how those kids will reach their developmental milestones differently, because you have been given the like a different set of tools, or you have not been given those tools at all. So that is very important, and I try to communicate this with moms. Like my sister-in-law just had a baby, and we've been like my wife has done lots of research on this thing, and she's pushing like, I know it's hard, I know it's frustrating, I know it's painful, all that stuff. I know that sometimes you're gonna feel like the baby needs more, whatever. Stick to she had to have was to be born like via C-section just because it was an emergency, but now like she has to do the best for the baby to regain or optimize the health, at the very least, by having that contact and having the breastfeeding. All right, so that's basically what it is. Now, as we grow older and we start like developing and stuff, it's our role as parents to make sure, my son is a picky eater, my daughter's a picky eater, or whatever it is. Be persistent. The same way, be persistent. You want to choose the right foods for the fruits, vegetables, good fats, good protein, and all stuff, and make sure that as your kid develops, you make sure that they start shifting toward those foods that will actually nourish them, not only feed them, but nourish them, okay? Because it's also going to keep their bacteria thriving, and your legacy is going to be health to them, okay? That's very, very, very important. Now, what happens when people don't eat, or what should you be eating? First off, what should you be eating? You should be eating things that do contain, fermented foods are absolutely huge, because they will introduce certain types of bacteria that are healthy for your gut, number one. So, but having a balance of non-processed foods, for one, is another huge one. Non-processed foods, like raw or cooked a certain way, but very important that are real foods, 1, 2, 3 ingredients per protein, that's it. You're going to saute your vegetables with olive oil, whatever it is. Your meats are going to be meats with salt and things like that. Great. And you want to have a balanced nutrition, balanced microbiome, health, okay, equals health. There's no way around it, okay? Now, promoting certain fruits and vegetables, leafy greens seem to be pretty good. Dark, like purple vegetables seem to be very beneficial it's the prebiotic aspect. So on feeding those probiotics, which is the way that they're referred to, those are your good, bugs. Okay. So introducing the good bugs, feeding the good bugs, Now, introduce how? Well, by touching things like everything you do all day, okay? So by eating the right foods, by, having like wholesome foods, well prepared, raw foods, like from the earth as well. So all of that stuff. Fermented foods are huge. Fermented foods are, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, cheese, yogurt, kefir. I mean, there is a myriad of foods that are like fermented, even pickled. They will actually favor certain bacteria, and those are the ones that you want to make sure that you consume to introduce the good bacteria, to keep the good bacteria. Well, the leafy greens, the purple vegetables, certain fruits, those are very, very important. So having some sort of like cellulose or cellulose rich, like soluble and insoluble fiber in your diet will help them thrive as well, and keep the balance. So that's one. Now, what happens throughout your life, or what can happen throughout your life, is that you actually get exposed to things like antibiotics. Antibiotics is the single most detrimental thing for your microbiome in general, okay? Because it will affect like the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. And I understand that they have a place and a time where you have no choice but to go for those medications. But that is like, we have an overuse or an abuse of antibiotics for pretty much everything. So they're being used for bacterial viral infections, for pretty much the common cold and things like that, and it's just like more often than not they're not needed. Okay, so antibiotic abuse is a big culprit for you affecting your microbiome negatively. All right, so, and that actually gives chance for the bad bacteria to thrive in in and on your body, right? So that's one of them. Now, there has been, and this is not very appealing, I understand that, but there has been a pretty interesting trend, appearing, like there's lots of research done on rats, and by now it's a therapy that it's being used on human beings, where you do fecal matter transplant. That's right. Yeah, poo from healthy people containing the good bacteria and the healthy microbiome to be like put into the GI tract of another person. And it's been showing promising results for people with certain conditions, including obesity. All right. So including obesity. So it's including immunity, like especially immunity, like one of the things that the microbiome will do is that it will regulate the T cell production, right? So those are like inflammation markers, basically, so that they will actually be regulated by a healthy microbiome, as opposed to overactive. An overactive immune system is also detrimental to your health, and cancer is one of the things where like a hyperactive immune system will show just detrimental effects to your health. All right, so today's health rant of the week, I've had some challenges with the media, with video. I do apologize, but I do think that this is a very, very important information for you to have and for you to act on, and that will help you understand why I am so, like sometimes picky and annoying and just repeating the same things over and over again. Because yes, you are what you eat. And yes, your health is in your hands. Your health is not necessarily something as we used to think that you inherit from your parents and your grandparents and whatnot. It's something that you have more control than you think. However, control means not necessarily only you, the thinking, reasoning person, but the community that is you. All right? So once again, this is the Health Rant of the Week. Thanks for watching. Alejandro Flores, Certified Fitness and Nutrition Coach. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. All right? See you next week. Bye.